pit.
Hello everybody, welcome back. So we're going to talk about potential black swans and what to do in that, and also the long term and the very short term price with Bitcoin and what it would mean. So there's a case for bulls, so the bulls, stay tuned, and also the bears, don't worry, there's something in there for you. At the moment with this current price action, although we've broken out of this descending trend line here, this is your main area of consolidation, effectively pricing in the rate hikes which are about to take place in about 8 days. And then we're outside of that. So this generally means it looks like an accumulation period. So that's normally what you'd expect to see when you break out of such a prolonged and aggressive downtrend like this. So it does look like an accumulation, and if that's the case, there's a clear top here, there is a bottom forming around here, a top here, and a bottom forming down here. You can see we've already tagged it again yesterday. So there are signs that this could be the range, but if you zoom out a little further, there's a very strong range area down here of 29,000. Again, you know, this could all be perfectly fine within the context of an accumulation zone. Accumulations can be quite large. You know, we've accumulated all kinds of coins, usually within about a 70% range. This is just short of a 60% range at the moment, so that's fine. That's perfectly fine. You think about buying Bitcoin, good old Michael Saylor. The only thing that he ever says that I like to quote would be that the best time to buy it is 5 years ago, and that is definitely something that you should always take to the bank. Buy Bitcoin wherever, even if you bought the top. You know, Matt Damon's entry. If you buy the top of Bitcoin, I wouldn't worry particularly. 5 years from now, you'll be forgiven and you'll be okay. So that is very much true. So when you go into an accumulation period, you're not going in as an epic trader going, yes, buy, go. That's not the case. You know, you go up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, 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 down, up, down, and then it would eventually work out in your favor. This looks like an accumulation kind of vibe going on right now, with further downside kind of, you know, on the cards, I would say, but it doesn't have to happen. You know, reclaiming this area here, 41,000, could easily push us back up to this area here, which is your 200 exponential, and once that's been reclaimed, then we should at that point have an uptrend. So that's a very bullish scenario, but we're not really here to digest all the intricate, you know, short-term daily events that could, you know, cause ups and downs. We should just assume that this is an accumulation zone, and that dollar cost averaging into this kind of area isn't a bad idea if you're looking to buy Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin. And the reason you might want to do that is because inflation is out of bloody control. We see this there. Let's go to a daily. We can see this. This is your Dixie, so your dollar index, right? So the dollar index being the Dixie going up like this gives the impression that the dollar is strong. But really what it is, it's been given the tallest dwarf award, right? We all know that the inflation for the dollar is at 7.5%, and it's probably higher now because of what's going on abroad, you know, with you know, the Eastern Europe issues, you know. We'll just leave it at that, right? It's going to most likely cause more inflation for all kinds of intricate reasons, but that is most likely to be the case. And so, yeah, the dollar's going up, but it doesn't really mean a great deal. We know that the dollar realistically is suffering large inflation of 7.5% and probably more. So it has been given the tallest dwarf award, basically meaning that the euro is awful, the pound is not very good, the Canadian dollar, you know, whatever else is wrapped into the Dixie. I'm not sure of all the currencies that are in there, but they're all the major ones, not looking very good. And the dollar, you know, winning, getting your tallest dwarf award, right? So that is normally an idea to get into Bitcoin in general. And we, you know, can sometimes trade this dollar index, and have done in the past, to recognise that, okay, a strong dollar index or a strong Dixie can you know, transpire into downwards pressure for stocks and Bitcoin, and that is normally the case, and generally is the case, and it would appear to be the case still. You know, we've come all the way up here since May, and we're continuing to go up. And what do we have for Bitcoin? You know, we've been going down, you know, effectively since November, but this is your May dump as well. So yeah, it still works, it's still true, but behind closed doors, behind the scenes, we know that the dollar is actually suffering big inflation. So what's going to happen on the 16th of March is the Fed are going to say what they're going to do to try and tackle inflation. Is it going to be 0.25? Is it going to be 0.5? Or is it going to be more basis points, basically, which basically increasing the interest, the interest rate to try and tackle inflation? This is what we've been waiting for ages now. We've been saying we'll keep a lot of our available funds ready for March because we need to have a better trading environment. We need to have a bit of clarification so we can invest some money into whether it's Bitcoin or stocks or altcoins. Obviously, we need the clarification. That's what everybody's waiting for. Before you start adding risk to your portfolio, you need to be aware of the risk, and at the moment we don't know that until we get the basis points. So that's not a black swan event in itself. That's something that's been on the card for a while, and I've been saying that all of this is largely priced that in because we knew it was coming, and it's only just over a week away, and then we will have that clarification. Most likely, whatever it is that they're going to do, unless it's a 0.25, which is less than what I think most expect. We'll probably see some volatility, whether it's a spike up, spike down, and then probably grow from there. Unless, of course, it's much larger than is expected, which is, it's not. We shouldn't write that concept off because inflation is running, crazy right now. They do need to do something, but whether they choose to do it now is different. There's a chance that they don't go too high now because of the whole Russia-Ukraine stuff. We need to give our economy the appearance of strength, really, because we've all seen what's happened to the Russian ruble. The MOEX, the Russian stock exchange hasn't even opened since all this nonsense. It's been a whole week closed. You can only imagine what's going to happen when it opens. So we need to, as a American stock market, give the impression that it's actually okay. But there's reasons why it won't be okay. Sanctions hurt everybody. Obviously, Russia to a large extent, but everybody who's sanctioned them to a lesser extent. But it's still an extent. And then on top of that, there's all these companies, many of them, hundreds, I think, at this point now, that have opted out of the Russian economy. Essentially, cutting off a little piece of their profit, which, I say a little piece, it'll still be a considerable amount, for moral reasons, ethical reasons. It's going to hurt profits. It's going to hurt stocks by default. It's like it's not cutting off your nose to spite your face, but it might be like cutting off your little finger, because it's infected. I don't know, bad analogy, but you see what I mean. So that's going to transpire into stocks, just by default. We can see the S&P 500 here, still in a downtrend, having a bad day yesterday. We were talking about how this is going to bleed over into American stocks when we saw the repercussions of what took place last week with British and European stocks. They were all getting hit quite hard because they're trading with Russia to a much greater extent, and they got hit really hard last week. And I said on the live stream that it's most likely going to start to bleed into the American markets, and we're starting to see that now. So further downside for stocks, basically, and until further notice, really, and again until the rate hike next week. This is probably going to be the case. So we recognise that there is correlation a lot of the time between stocks and crypto, but the fundamentals are certainly different. Now, when we're talking, let's talk about some potential black swans and what we should do. So the best thing to do if you're looking to anticipate a black swan, and like I say, you're not like a massive active trader, but you want to try and get some decent buys, right? And this is what I would do, and this is, I suppose, what I am doing. But it's not that I'm expecting it. I'm a very casual trader. When it comes to Bitcoin, I do want to pick up as much as possible at good prices. I'm not going to sit here sitting around trading all the time. I don't really need to do that anymore. But if you were trying to anticipate a black swan, which is a mad thing to think about because we can't really anticipate them, but there are certain black swan events that are circling these charts. The biggest one that we've been thinking about, we were talking about this on the live stream maybe last week, or we were talking about potentially with all these sanctions, it might be an opportunity for governments to try and rush in some regulation for crypto to stop people from avoiding sanctions, really, which is, I suppose, a risk. Let's face it, Bitcoin it's already been and has been used through the dark net, and it's got its sinister purposes, hasn't it? It's always been there. In fact, that was probably its biggest use case for a long period of time, still is. So the black market and Bitcoin are kind of well acquainted, and so regulation. This could be their chance to do it. Let's rush something stupid through. That would be a black swan event that could come out. Oh god, they've regulated crypto. I don't know what it is that they would do, but it would cause a sell-off. And that sell-off, normally if you think about a black swan, you're talking between 40 and maybe 60%, somewhere in between, from wherever we are at the time. And that's wick to wick. So if you're looking to pick up Bitcoin, the best thing to do is, rather than go, okay, 40% from here is going to take us to blah, 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 the best thing to do is to think about, okay, supports all the way down, buy orders here, buy orders around the weekly 200, which is around about 24,000. So buy orders around here for 24,000, give or take. Okay, anywhere else? Well, yeah, you could have a buy order around here, just above 20,000. People know that 20,000 was the previous peak, wasn't it? The previous parabolic peak of the last bull run. That would make a lot of sense. A buy order at 20,000, which again takes us to the 200 exponential, the 200 simple, sorry, on the weekly there. And then finally you could have a look on the monthly. What's going on the monthly here? Okay, so we've got the 50 exponential and the 50 simple. They're all coming out of these areas as well. We've got 22,000. We've also got just above 20,000. And then below there we go into the teens. We've got a nice flat level horizontal resistance, support resistance area, which comes in at about just below 18,000. And then the lowest one you could imagine would be just lower than 12,000, right? So if you had, let's just say you've got $10,000 to go, and you want to buy Bitcoin, and you're being extremely optimistic, and you're expecting black swans to take place. Then this is what you'd do. You would put buy orders all the way down. You wouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. You wouldn't go, oh look, he just said that the lowest would be 12,000. I'm putting it all in there. I'm just short of a Bitcoin. What good value for money? Well, you might be able to put a buy order down there, and it could just sit there forever. Right, it'll sit there for the rest of your life. It'll sit there indefinitely. The best thing to do would be to buy into zones on the way down, because that way you can guarantee at least some of those will be filled. Now, obviously, some black swans can be anticipated. We expected this one over here. I took some chips off the table here, and with that, I've been buying back incrementally on the way down. For 40,600 being the first one, 35,000 being the second one, and then look what's below us, all these areas that we've just discussed. So we've got 29,000, a big base here. So we've got a support here, support here, support here, decent reactions from all three. There's a very strong chance that we'd have a good reaction from it there as well. And again, that would also keep us outside of this descending trend line of consolidation. So actually that seems to be like a very obvious area for maybe even the bottom, regardless of the black swan event, so that is one area that I'm particularly interested in, and do have a buy order down at 29,000 for that reason alone. Worked for me over here, and I expect it to maybe not definitely work, nothing's a guarantee, but a good idea that it would work. So the other one was around just below 24,000. You could put that in at 24,000. Again, hope for the best. The next major one is just above 20,000, right? So when you've got a flat figure like 20,000, obviously there's going to be a lot of noobs out there going, I'm putting it in at 20,000. Nice round number, has to be filled. 20,000 definitely is a support. Well, if you think about that, you're most likely going to get front run if it were to go down that low. It might not happen, so the best thing to do is think, alright, 20,000, okay, let's go for 21,000. That way, if it does come down to those considerably low levels, which is quite high if we think about it, if we drop from where we are right now all the way down to 20,000, we're talking about a 48% move. In a major black swan event, then yeah, I can get that. I could see it come down to 20,000, maybe even a little lower from a wick to wick basis. But if it doesn't, or if you get front run, you'll be kicking yourself. I had a buy order at 20,000 exactly, all the zeros, no nothing, just 2 and all the zeros, and then you get front run, because the best way to trade is to front run any support and front run any resistance. That way you get out before, just before the top, and all those people that have got nice round numbers. I'm selling at $100,000 Bitcoin. If it ever got back up to that level, which I'm sure it will, the best thing to do is to sell it 98. Do you know what I mean? It's only a fraction of a percent. It's nothing really, but it is. It's a good way to do it. And again, you'd front run the supports for spot traders, obviously. So yeah, 20,000 or thereabouts, you put a buy order in at around 21. We discussed another one down here at 18. That's lesser of a support, but it's still one as well. So we're talking about 18,000. You'd want to front run that a little, maybe 18.5. And then the lower. You see where I'm going with this, right? You front run these areas, but again, you wouldn't put all of your money in at the lowest one, nor would you put all your money in at the highest one. You would incrementally put stops, orders in on every single stop on the way down. And again, there is a very, very strong chance that we don't go down to these levels ever. and so putting buy orders in at these upper zones is very realistic, because on a chart basis, yeah, we're still downtrending, we are potentially accumulating, but the way it looks at the moment does offer a further downside, but we've had very good reactions in the past from this level, and we might get a very good reaction from it once again. So black swans happen, right? But the nature of a black swan is that they can't be predicted. Depending on the type of black swan that happens, depends on the size of the move on the way down, right? Is it going to be correlated with the overall market? Is it going to be unique to Bitcoin? What is the black swan? Nobody really knows. If you're a very casual trader and just want to have buy orders, then that's the way to do it. There is no bottom, if that makes sense, on a black swan. It's an irrational sell-off. So it's not particularly a traded zone, if that makes sense. It's an irrational sell-off, and we can see that if we go back in time to March. There's your irrational sell-off here. Whey! What a great buying opportunity. How many people bought the bottom? Not that many, but if you think about what this bottom was, if we just take that wick and have a look at it over here, it takes us right into the accumulation over here of the Bitcoin bottom that formed 2019. So there is rhythm to it, although it wasn't the bottom, was it? It was a front run bottom straight through the middle of the absolute bottom for the previous bear market. So it did have relevance to it, but it wasn't the absolute low. So there might be people saying, oh, I tell you what, it's going to go all the way down to here, it won't go any lower than this. Oh no, I was front run. No, missed out your buy order. Me personally, I didn't have any buy orders on the way down. I did take out a lot of profit out before we had that last plunge down, because I saw the way it was going. But I didn't buy back in until we were back into like the $5,000 zone, really. So there's many ways you can play this. That I think for those who want to do that, that's perfectly fine, and it's a traded strategy in itself. You sell on the way up, you buy back on the way down. That's just normal. That's trading. Okay, that's absolutely normal. But if you're looking to absolutely try to catch the low of an event that can't be predicted, basically a black swan, me personally, I'll go for these zones. But personally, if there is a black swan event, I want to have lots of available funds so I can assess the actual damage, rather than trying to get clever and buy all the way down. I would be thinking, right, this is an area that I'm interested in, but anything else, I won't be putting money in on these. If we do have a black swan, I need to understand what the black swan is and assess the damage before we go any further, because like I say, the nature of a black swan is you don't know what the hell it is. You don't know what the repercussions will be. And so trying to get too clever on the way down is not for me. But from a chart perspective, yeah, I will put a buy order. Well, I already have 29,000. That's decent. If we break down below there, I'm not going to get clever. I will play it safe. And again, that's just me. But to answer the questions that I get from many people at the moment about what's the lowest it will go in the event of a black swan, remember that just the nature of that question is just kind of madness, and hopefully you can understand that. It's kind of a mad question to ask. Do you know what I mean? It's like I can't even think of an analogy that suits, but it's kind of a crazy question. What's a predictable price for an unpredictable event? You know what I mean? It's a very difficult question to answer. But if you were looking to set buy orders, each one of these would be one, and you would try to have them all filled. And if they didn't all get filled, no big deal. But from a wick to wick basis, it might work. But other than that, it wouldn't. So for me, again, I like to assess the damage, but from a trader's perspective, a good reaction from 29,000 is most likely to be the bottom. But if there is a devastating black swan event take place, anything is possible. We just don't know. So I'm going to leave it with you there, like a bit of food for thought, less to do with the chart. Again, it's the way that the chart looks right now, it's still responding and reacting to these particular areas, and this could be it. On a chart basis, an accumulation level that looks a little bit like this could be the one. But for the moment, I don't know. I've bought this area out. It's going to stay bought out. I'm not going to get into any altcoins until further notice. Again, we're talking about this range getting played up, down, up, down, up, and then before a down would take place. So altcoins are off the cards still. But there is a live stream tonight, so if you're interested, you can join the Patreon. We'll be looking at many altcoins. There is still a couple of them occasionally that come up that look okay. I made that video on Atom. That was something that we noticed on the live stream before, so I thought I'd make a little video on it. Occasionally you will come across something that is actually okay, but at the moment in this kind of environment, I'd say the vast majority of altcoins are kind of to be left alone for the moment. Just leave them be, and we can revisit them at more interesting times, arguably at 47.5% Bitcoin dominance. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.